I'm Becky Malby. I'm chairing the conference, which is virtually impossible with characters like Mike and Julian to follow, but, do my best. But what strikes me about productivity is that there are probably four really important domains of it, that we've always thought about it around efficiency and money. But actually the first domain is around how do we rethink the shape of patient care. And I was talking to a GP, and he's gone from giving 10-minute surgery sessions to 1-hour slots for people who've got very chronic illness and real difficulties. And he's found it's transformed his list. He's managing his whole list so much better by giving people the option of a 1-hour slot versus a 10-minute slot. So some of the changes that we might make in the way we give care isn't always about slimming down. Sometimes it's scaling up and doing things differently. So I thought it was a really nice story about how we might change the nature of care. Second thing is about how we might use resources. And I was part of the Barriers to Choice review, and one of the stories in that, if you've read it, was of GP practice. And they cut their hedge every year. Have you seen this one? And every year when they cut the hedge, out of the hedge fall hundreds of scripts. And of course what people have done is go to see the GP, be given a script, I don't want that, stuffed it in the hedge. And what a feedback loop about how we're doing the wrong thing with our money and our resources. So I thought that was neat, as sometimes, again, we just don't know what resources are needed or not needed. And that leads me on to the next thing, which is we need a completely different relationships with parents, with patients and carers. And until we have radically different conversations with patients and their carers, we won't be able to work in partnership with them and use their fantastic assets. So if in that GP practice there had been that conversation, then of course the GPs would have realised that prescribing all those scripts was a waste of time. But we've also been working with patients and carers in A&E who are really helping manage people's anxiety, people who've got drug and alcohol problems, but particularly alcohol problems, who come in very distressed, get treated in a particular way by some of our clinical professional colleagues. But if they have a patient carer partner working in A&E who can help manage their distress and anxiety, then their pathway through and potentially home rather than in is radically changed. We're not thinking about how we might see volunteering capacity as a partnership rather than somebody that might show people around a hospital and give out tea. Very different sorts of relationships we might need. And the fourth thing is how we might reduce bureaucracy. And I've been fairly shocked over the last few months into how some of the reforms have played out in the sort of lack of common sense around things like lead provider, lead commissioner. The amount of doubling up multiple meetings that some of you folks are involved in seem to me completely crazy, when you should be thinking, I have this much time in the day, how do I best spend it? So I think there are four domains. And what you'll find today is, I think, all of those fantastic technology responses that change the conversation you might have with patients and users. Fantastic ways of thinking about how you might commission services. So you've got a sweet box of stuff today, but I'd like you to try and keep in your head those four dimensions. How do we rethink the nature of what we give? How do we better use our actual resources? How do we develop new relationships with patients and carers? And how do we reduce our own bureaucracy? How do we spend our time best? And that, I think, would be the theme of the day. So now you're all sat down and with us, there's a few things you might want to know. The Wi-Fi code was up there. Did you see it? It's NHS Day 13, lowercase or uppercase. For those of you that are Twitter fans, it's Productivity Day 13. Is that right? Is it up there? NHS Productivity 13. NHS Productivity 13 is the Twitter feed. Now, in your brochures, programmes, if you go to page 8 and 9, you'll see when you've got your choice of master classes or plenary sessions, whatever you want to call them, your breakout sessions. For those of you that want to do the theme A, which is quality and efficiency, you stay in here. For those of you that want to do leadership and management, you knit round the corner to B. And for those of you that want to do innovation and technology, you knit round the corner to C. And you can move between, whatever you find interesting. So as you're just hearing things, so you might be thinking where you want to go next. So let's get on. And with our themes in mind, We've got a rapid turnover of speakers, and what I'd like you to do is perhaps you can just scribble some notes in the back of things you might want to ask, and we'll take them all at the end of the speakers' sessions. So let's kick off with Mike.